Hey everybody, welcome back to During Business Hours. My name's Christopher. Today I have Dusten with us from Geek Boy Repairs. How you doing, Dusten?
Good. How are you?
Doing pretty good. Let's get her started. So where did you start? Like, were you always from Florida?
No, I've moved around a lot as a kid. So I started in this industry when I was 12, and I took a small break when I was in the Air Force. But really,
Air Force.
yeah, what a fun time, let me tell you.
Yeah.
Yeah, so just kind of all up and down the East Coast, really, all the way from up in Pennsylvania to Florida, and that's where I'm at to Tampa or Clearwater area.
So how old were you when you joined the Air Force?
18.
See, I joined the Army at 17. Had to beg my
Oh
parents.
yeah,
Yeah.
uh,
Where
so
were
they
you
won't let you do
stationed?
that. Lackland.
Oh, nice. How long did you stay in?
San Antonio, right where I just left.
Oh, nice. How long were you in the Air Force?
About 2.5 years. I dislocated my rotator cuff, so they tried to rehab it, and it wasn't rehabbing. So they're like, "We're gonna have to medical discharge you." I'm like, all right.
It's a similar thing
Guess I'll go
happened to
back to
me.
fixing stuff."
I was in Korea as my first long duty station. And so I'd already
Mm,
been in almost a year and a half with training. And I was there 9 months and I literally lost my mind. Just depression. I had some things that happened in training. A buddy of mine killed himself. So I was reeling from issues of that. And it just overtook me as a almost
wow.
19-year-old kid. It just ruined the next 3 years of my life. Spiraled. Drugs, life, marriage, divorce. It's a fun story. You should check it out on the
I
channel.
mean, I can see that definitely happening, especially in Korea. I mean, with going to a totally different country. I mean, I don't know if I could mentally be able to just like Korea, for instance. Nobody speaking English or except for certain spots on base. It'd be
Yeah.
that would be hard for me too.
It was we were on Camp Casey and what they called CRC or Camp Red Cloud, and this is 2008. So you know, right before the what is it, Pyeongchang's missile accident. So a month after I left, I was supposed to transfer to Pyeongchang, and then they ended up having a missile miraculously explode there. And so I was like, well, I could have been one of the ones dead. I was
Yeah.
everything happens for a reason, you know. Did you like the Air Force, even though you got medically discharged?
I mean, I did at the time, but I mean, looking back at it, it's probably one of the best things that ever happened to me because I got out and I was gonna start going back into what I was doing, which was fixing phones at the time. I worked for somebody who wasn't paying me very well, so I had to deliver pizzas and fix phones. And at one point in time, they wanted me to come in more and more, and I'm like, I can't. I've got to deliver pizzas, man. I'm making more money delivering pizzas than I am fixing the stuff for you. So they're like, all right, we'll give you, they gave me a substantial raise, and that's kind of how I became full on into it again,
I,
like I was before the Air Force.
I think the whole industry saw a pay shift in like 2015, and then recently as 2020, we were paying people, what was it, like $9 an hour until 2015, and then $11 an hour, and raising in California as much as we could just to meet the minimum wage because we never, most techs stay like 2 years. They don't stay longer because there's not really you can't retire in this industry, you know?
Yeah,
It's not, unless you're doing it for yourself, everyone should be trained enough to then go out and do it for themselves and then refer leads back to you, which is kind of the model we ended up doing with a couple of years ago. And it's like, hey, get enough training. We'll give you parts. We'll give you access to this information. You go, just bring us leads. And that's been beneficial, especially through the ebb and tide of business.
was that like the franchise concept a little bit there?
Yeah, we train the guys, and then they get the tools necessary, and they Scott's free from us, no contract. Just hey, you know, keep a friendly business relationship. Some don't, some do. Beneficial. What'd you
Yeah.
do after you got that pay raise? How long did you
Um,
stay there?
Probably about, I want to say a year. And then, like you said, divorce. My fiance was like, I don't really want to do this anymore. And I'm like, well, that sucks. And I was so depressed by that. I like just got in my car and drove to Florida and slept in my car. I mean, I interviewed for jobs over the phone before I moved down here. But I was like, I had no money saved up. Obviously, as a kid, you don't think about that type of thing. So I just hopped in my car, drove to Florida, stuck in my car for a couple of weeks, and then one of the people that I was working with, one of the coworkers, was like, "Dude, you can stay with me." I'm like, "That would be amazing," And so I kind of stayed with him for, I want to say, 6 months. And when I actually got moved, like I was telling you before I came to Florida, I actually had several interviews lined up. So I talked to the people, and one of them, I think it was My Broken Phone, had a spot for me right away to go. So, but another one, Geekmatics, was offering more money and an opportunity to run my own store. So that it was something, but that location wasn't built out yet, and it wouldn't be done for another like 6 months or so. So I was like, kind of went to Broken Phone. I was honest with them. I'm like, look, I mean, if you need a tech for 6 months, I'm here, but I'm also got this great opportunity, down an hour away, and I really want to explore that. And they were very, very cool about it. They were like, yeah, definitely you can work with us for the 6 months. And I did that, and then Geekmatics, which is who I've been with or was with up until recently, for about 8 years or so. And then finally, I was just kind of like, I'm doing all your guys' board work. I'm bringing in the clients, and now I'm so busy. I can't keep up with this, because I'm also helping the clients and answering the phone and doing all this, and as well as trying to keep up with B2B. And I'm like, something's got to change, and nothing changed. So I'm like, all right, I gotta branch out on my own now, I guess, at this point.
How scary was it to drive down to Florida and just take that risk, even though you're leaving a relationship? That's got to be massive to leave your home just with the bags in your car. I won't close the back.
I mean, it was definitely scary. It was just something where I had to get out of there. It wasn't enough to get out of like the next state. I needed to go as far away as I could. And everybody vacations in Florida, might as well go there.
Was it close to spring break? Was that the thought process, or did you have family there?
No, I don't remember. I mean, I did have family here, but not like in that immediate vicinity. So they were close, but not close enough to work and live there.
Yeah, we're moving from California to Oklahoma. Better opportunities out there. The place here has just kind of become a cesspool for homelessness. It's getting real bad. I know Florida took quite the turn, started sending people out of state. DeSantis. What's your view on DeSantis?
I don't really have I don't get involved in politicalness, man.
That's the way.
Sorry.
To do it. No. So you were there 8 years. How, I got to ask, when did you become their main guy? Like, for moving all their board stuff? Was it gradual, or did they pay you to train?
They didn't have a board guy for, I want to say 6 years. And, we never sent it out. And I was kind of a young technician, and I really didn't look on YouTube, and I wasn't in the group. So when they actually told me, like, no, board repair is unreliable. And I believed it. I was like, okay, because they told me we had an experience. We sent out like 10 things and they all broke. And I was like, oh yeah, must not be reliable. So we never explored it until I broke an iPad, backlight 12.9. And we were looking, it was a brand new device at the time, and it was something where it was very expensive for the owners to buy the device. So they were looking to ship out to any board level guy, and they were looking at the prices. And they were like, oh man, this board level is making good money. So they offered to send me to Jessa Jones, and in lieu of like a 3-year contract of working with them, and to stay there. So I was like, yeah, let's do that, And then I got back from Jessa, and if you work on boards, you just didn't take a class, and now you can fix boards, right? You have to put a lot of time into it. So they literally paid me for a year to pretty much sit and look at a microscope and figure out how to do this. And that's what I did. And during that year, I also was posting in the groups, I was kind of building a reputation, and B2B just kind of started flowing in from that. So it was something that, it wasn't really the end game. It was mainly just like, hey, we got to fix our mess up, and then it will be profitable in the future. But it was just kind of something that I took and ran with it.
Because I believe you were still working with Geekmatics and just getting your toes wet into the board, like B2B board level repairs. When I first got in contact with you through the groups, there was a question I had asked stupidly, and hey, I'm not above it. Again, it's one of those things where you and 5 other people are informational about things. You're not, what is it, degrading. Everyone will say something stupid and then be like, oh, you don't know what you're talking about, or a St. Patrick of ways. You know, we'll all say that he is the troller of the group, just loves to make memes.
I think his favorite word is y'all are peasants. That he keeps saying that, like, he's above this industry, yet he's still in this industry.
Has anyone ever looked at his store on Google?
No, I mean, I think he's got multiple stores now. I think what he likes to do is take somebody that is working for no money and not happy with their situation and throw a store at them. Oh. Or at least that's how it used to be, I believe. But I think he's got multiple locations.
I remember when crypto was big, he was flying to and from locations. And then I kept seeing his posts like Vegas, dinner steakhouse, home steak. You know, I was like, oh, good for him. You know, I did a lot of the B2B work back in like 2017 when I started doing like up to iPhone 8, stuff like that. But I kind of just gave up when the board splits came in. I'm like, this is getting way too much for me. And I'd have to put way too much time into this every single day versus at that point I was building a family, and then I was, you know, life for me was taking a different turn. So I decided to
I kind of had that same attitude when the sandwich boards came out, you know, is because I was looking at, you know, iPhones or MacBooks. And at the time it was just too much to learn at once. Yeah. Right. So I went to Jessa Jones. So I was trained in iPhones. I was learning how iPhones work. But when the sandwich boards were becoming more and more frequent, it was like, okay, you know, let me just concentrate on MacBooks. I got really good on MacBooks. And once I got to the point of confidence where I was fixing them faster than I was trying to figure it out, then I contacted like Jesse Cruz and was like, hey, man, how you doing these sandwich boards? What's your secret? And so, you know, he kind of gave me a few tips and tricks, and Greg Wade as well. A couple of people were all just very helpful. And that's one of the reasons, you know, that I always try to help. You know, you said that I was maybe one of 5 people that are active and actually help people. And that's just because I'm trying to give back to the repair industry. You know, if we're all looking at each other as competitors, then we're going to fail. You know, we're not, if you think about it, we're probably one of the only industries that are not legitimate in the sense of like Apple doesn't want us to do what we're doing. Right. And they're not giving us the things. And so it's not something like we're going to, well, with IRP now, I guess it's becoming less like that, but it was just something that, you know, I always want to take the extra mile and help somebody. You know, I have people in my DMs all the time, and I'm always trying to help them get to where they can be. So it's something that, you know, that's because of what people did with me when I was first starting this. So,
yeah, the biggest problem with this industry, and I've always said collaboration over competition, especially because the way I started, I was very petty, and I was like, that guy sucks. He's using bad parts. I want, you know, to take his customers, ruin his business. And it was so toxic for like the first year and a half. And I was running out of a flea market that I was enraged, and I moved nowhere. I didn't do anything. I put like a few bucks in my pocket, but every month the dollar was the same for deductions or credits as withdrawals. I'm like, so I'm spending the same amount, but I'm still bitching more and more. And I was like, okay, let me send some work. Let me ask for some advice. Next, oh shit, it doubled. And then it doubled again. And I'm like, okay, now we're growing. And that's why I say you're one of the 5 people, because in those 5 people, I can send you things. I can send Jesse things. I can send a few other people things, you know, and man, we still do your surface level stuff. You know, you blow a backlight filter. Great. Here you go. 20 minutes time. Most of my guys are decent enough with the common knowledge, but when you get to the splits, injecting voltage, trying to do like your seat, I still have 2 seat cameras I got to get rid of. Thanks for reminding me. Like shit like that is just finding those thermal faults is a pain in the ass for the people who are not trained on it, and they're just going to start damaging things. And so when somebody comes up with a question like, hey, I split this, I have no experience, and I destroyed 15 things, all you're going to get is just hate, stupidity, hate, stupidity, hate, stupidity. And then there's Dusten and Jesse. It's like, hey, you should reach out to my DMs, or hey, you should have done this first. Oh, thanks.
Depending on what group you're in, you know, if it's CPRST, normally it's, hey, reach out, we can fix it for you. If it's a micro soldering group, normally you see the in-depth answers of, hey, this is what you should do next. This is what you should have done before. And this is how this doesn't happen again, essentially. And that's, you know, I think one of the reasons Jesse actually answers my DMs is because he sees I'm out there trying to help as much as he is.
Would you consider yourself to be on a similar level of expertise in MacBooks versus iPhones than Jesse?
Yeah, definitely. Jesse's looked at as one of the greatest with iPhones, and I would say I'm very similar with MacBooks. I mean, I'm not saying I'm the greatest by any means, but my success rate is very high, to the point where, I mean, I had this one client who's been working with me 6 months now, and everything he sent, I've just been lucky and been able to fix it. Right. So he had one recently, and I was like, oh man, this is a no fix. He was like, wait, I didn't think you had no fixes, and I was like, yeah, they're few and far between, but that's what we try to do. And if I can't figure it out, I like to put it aside for a day or two, think about it, and then come back to it. And that's how you learn. For instance, I don't want to get into boring micro soldering talk, but one of these MacBooks I had was a MacBook Air, and it had a PMIC short, which was immediately easy to identify. And I got to that point in like 5 or 10 minutes, but it still would not turn on. I was still having the same current draw. So it was like, dang, I can't figure it out. I probably spent 8 hours, not in a row, but just 8 hours total on this board, until I finally figured out that the line was short. It was not being generated still. And so I'm like, okay, maybe the bad PMIC. So I swapped that out, still nothing. And what ended up fixing it was me jumping that line to another 5-volt line to bring it up, and I immediately powered on. And I was like, wow, okay, learned something new there. I'll look for that next time. And then not even a week later, I had 2 more of those boards come in, and I was able to fix them in 20 or 30 minutes. And that's kind of the thing that I always tell people is, if you spend the extra time, if you spend that 8 hours now, I know it's not going to be worth to you on that single repair, but it's just the experience that you're getting. That way, the next time you see that issue, you're popping them out like there's no tomorrow. So it's something that it was something that the owners of Geekmatic and I fought about all the time, because they were like, if you can't fix it in 2 hours, call it a no fix. And I'm like, I'm not doing that. I'm not. I need to learn how to do this.
Yeah. Does not allow it.
What was that?
The law of attraction doesn't allow it. Especially, I knew the same thing when I first did my touch ICs on the iPhone 6 Pluses. The moment I got that down with the jumper, I got 30 of them in the next week. I didn't even post about it. But boom, just bam, 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 bam. All right, now I know how to do this. The moment, and I think I posted last year when I started doing the back glasses by heat and started training my guys to do it. I posted a video to a comment or a thread, I think, to you. And the moment I put it out there, oh man, now we do 20, 30 of them a week. And it's crazy. It's the law of attraction. Once you do something and you know this is the way to do it, you just got to spend time on it. The same way car washers or salesmen's, once they got it down, it comes. There's always a fault there. Now, your current business model, is this something you think you're going to retire from, or are you going to build out a store?
No, I mean, you hit my soul when you were like, you can't retire from this. I'm like, don't I know it? It's something where, I when I first got into B2B, or when I left Geekmatics, my mindset and my game plan was, I'm going to build B2B, and I'm only going to do B2B. I'm tired of the end user customer. I'm tired of being, yelled at for things that aren't my fault. And just, and then of course it's only like 5% of the people are like that, but the 5% are so bad. It's just like, oh, I don't want to do it anymore. And now I've been doing Geek Boy repairs solely for not even a year yet. It's been almost March was when I left. So it's something that I was now, many months later, I'm sitting here like, I miss helping customers. I want to get back into a storefront, and also it's not even only missing customers. It's about making the easy dollar, right? Screen replacements, battery replacements, everything that hits my bench today is a board level repair, right? So it classifies a more difficult repair. I never just can have a day where it's like, 10 screen replacements. This is going to be a profitable day and an easy day. It doesn't always happen that way in B2B. So OLED King, Mike and I we're still talking about trying to team forces and getting a storefront. Because I mean, if you have somebody that's really good at micro soldering and somebody that's really good at refurbishing, we're going to kill it. We're really going to be able to clean up in that area. So it's something that we're trying to work out and trying to get to where it's going to be, because he's not really wanting to move and I'm not really wanting to move, but we're so close together. So it's like, we just got to figure that out. And then I think we're going to have a storefront going on.
My personal history, up until that 2016 moment, I was doing only refurbishing, up to the S7, up to the Note 7. And when they started doing curves, I bought the Enclave. I bought the heater spreaders. And not even a week after they showed up, I didn't even unbox them. We had somebody break into the back of the storefront and take the cases. And so
wow,
insurance fought me on only receipts I had were customs and all the stuff from overseas. And at that point, when I finally got paid, it was like 20 grand worth of stuff. And I'm like, this is a big hit at the time. I didn't have a spare 20 grand to just throw around. And I'm like, oh, you know what? I'm just going to buy a microscope. Seems like everything's charge ports. I can just save money and this will be quicker to turn around and learn. And that's when it kicked off that way. But man, and most of my guys know how to do the basic Apple Watches. We do some of the iPhone 6, 7, stuff like that, still refurbishing because it's easier. But to not have that and try and run a store like this you can't make it, especially doing,
I don't think so,
20 or 30 screens a day. Even at 30 minutes a screen, 20 minutes a screen, you're not going to make your nut. And the people who post about it, they're moving some weight behind the scenes to try and make that nut. I was going to bring up the OLED King because you went recently out to his spot, right? And learned a little bit about refurbishing.
Well, I go to his spot probably once a month, just because he's a buddy of mine. Did I learn refurbishing? I mean, he showed me and then he walked me through it. And I did my first one successfully, but it's something that I personally have no interest in and to learn, just because
that delicate nature.
The one reasons I like micro soldering is because it's a new challenge every day. You never know what you're going to see. Whereas like with refurbishing, and no disrespect to anybody who does refurbishing, it's just like, it's so the same thing every day, constantly. And I don't know if I could wrap my head around that. And I have a ton of respect for the people who do it, because it's not something you can just like, I was only able to do it because Mike, who's fantastic at refurbishing, was over my shoulder being like, do this, do this, do this, do this. And it was just like, he could teach anybody how to refurbish. So if I was in the same position without Mike, I would definitely be breaking screens left and right. And that's something that, and kind of my other point against refurbishing is because if you mess up a board on a board level repair, 9 times out of 10, you can fix that. If you break an OLED, you have to buy another OLED. Like there's no, I can fix this. It's done at that point. You've lost. And, Mike makes this point all the time where it's like, you're going to have breakage and, you're only making $80 on a screen, but if you break it, you lose $250. So one of his favorite things to say, I think, is if you are bad at this, you are going to go in the hole quick. Like you're going to be sinking money into it. And so, yeah, I don't really have that much interest in to go into the refurbished game, to be honest with you. I'll let the professionals handle that.
No, yeah, and I give it off to Mike, the way he's posted. He's dealt with it delicately on the people who have lost their heads because they're thinking it's quick dollars. The reason I was given that break during the burglary, when I started to realize the loss possibility is great. I think I had broken a Note 8 OLED, like $350. And I was like, I warned the customer, there's a risk, there's powdered areas. That's one of the reasons we get a lot of scrap in my storefront, is like, we're very transparent. Hey, your Apple Watch, you have all 4 corners are shattered and dented. And I'm like, hey, you got a 50-50 here. You're going to pay me $40 for trying it. If it works, you're paying me $80 for the refurb. If not, $170 for a replacement. And if it doesn't make it, boy, are they angry. Like they never got told any of that. And I think the interpretation is they're so hopeful they ignore all the warnings. They're like, I'm going to save a bunch of money.
Well, and that's end user where you can do that too. You can say, hey, look, this is what it is. But on a B2B, you can't. If they're sending you a working OLED, they expect the OLED to come back working. And if not, that's your responsibility, right? I mean, it's such a higher standard for B2B than an end user. I mean, I remember in that year of me learning, anytime a board level come in, I would explain to the person like in depth, like board level repair is very risky. It may not work. It may be worse. We do not know what to expect, just so I could have that disclaimer, but I was still like trying to push them into doing it because I wanted to learn, so it was just like, but with B2B, you can't do that. If they're sending in like an iPhone 12 for baseband or Wi-Fi and the phone still functions, if that board doesn't function when it leaves your shop, you're buying them a new phone.
Yeah, like every time. A lot of people don't tell you. the risk factor is solely on that. That's why we stopped doing like back glass B2B, refurbishing or micro soldering, because I offered it for a little while, but boy, I ran into a guy from Monterey that ate up 6 months of my year. And I was like, he just kept sending me case after case of these devices he would buy in lots, and like, oh, this was all turning on, doing X, Y, and Z. And I'm like, it's just a bunch of garbage.
Yeah.
That guy is, I think, my biggest fan currently, because I technically own half his business. Fun little story. So what are your immediate plans? What do you want to do the next year versus the next 5 years?
I really want to keep growing my reputation over this next year. Keep growing the B2B. That way, when it comes for Mike and I to actually open up a storefront, it's something because every store is going to be slow at first, right? You got to build up reviews, you got to build up reputation. So I want Mike's and I's B2B to be so strong that we can survive, have a paycheck, and have profitability, even with the extra expenses of a store, and that's kind of my goal. That's kind of where I want to be at. And it's almost there, it's building up.
So one last question I got with the Mike thing is, he's obligated with Techie, right? Like that's what he's doing with Walmart.
Yeah, that's a sticky situation, man. And I don't know how much of it I want to get into on the air, but it's one of the things where him and I had plans to open up a store when he was doing, it was an Ocala thing, building out that storefront.
Oh, yeah.
And then he just had like an unbelievable opportunity with Techie where they were literally just like, here's the keys to the store.
That's
and
crazy.
and he took off with it. I mean, the store was struggling before he got in there, and now the store is profitable every month. And it's just something where it's like, it's hard to walk away from that. But, I think our plans is to build that up enough to be able to sell it profitable, so he makes profit on it, and then use kind of some of that funds to build out the store that we want.
The best advice I got a few years ago was, everything is built to sell because you can't run it till you die. So
yeah,
it doesn't matter what it is. That too many business owners will be the operators where they try to polish everything to be perfection. And we see that with people like Sean or some of the CPR owners. Everything has to be 100%. And I'm like, really, sell, flip. That's what we do with repairs. Everything is instant gratification, move on to the next project. It has to be the same with businesses. Otherwise, you're not going to do this when you're 60, 70, 80. Where are you going to get your medical from?
Especially in this industry. Yeah.
Yeah. Like when those bowel problems happen at 70, what are you going to do? It's
exactly. Hopefully I get to 70.
I think I'm on the same page with you, man. I understand. I used to say that I would die by 25 or jump off a cliff to 60. If I didn't have obligations, I would be on that path. But, kids changed everything. It's nuts.
Yeah.
I'm excited. I couldn't imagine, man. Life now without them is nuts. Plans for family in the future?
That's what they say, man. Kids ground you.
It's nuts. Yeah.
Yeah, we're trying, man. We got married. I've been with my wife almost immediately since I moved to Florida. So 8 years. And then we just got married last October. Our anniversary is coming up here on the 30th. So just a year, but we've been trying all year and it's still not there yet. But it's definitely something that we both want as a family.
Dude, take a romantic getaway. I know you make enough, so get the mood hot. My son came right after we got engaged. Just somehow, we didn't want to be pregnant, but bam, it happened. The excitement. And we're like, great. Now we got a second. And as much as I love him, a kid is a nightmare. Have your girl first.
Oh, I'm scared to have a girl, man. I don't know how I would discipline a girl. That's what I was telling Kayla.
No,
my wife, I feel like would.
Yeah, she doesn't get disciplined.
Yes, that's the problem, I think. Look at not your kids, but look at the kids these days. I mean, half the kids that come into the shop are like, their moms are with them. They're like, how much for the repair? And then we say the price and the kid's like, yes, do it. And the mom's like, I don't know. And then they start like, fighting with their parents in the middle of the store. I'm like, damn, dude, if I try to play that with my mother, I'd be slapped in the face in the middle of the store. And, there was
Yeah,
no joking around back then.
yeah, once you're a parent, it's so much harder because the times are different now. So like, I'll still whoop my kids in the middle of Walmart. I don't care. But like, my daughter will do these manipulative little things where it'll be like, well, daddy, I really want. And then it's like, but CJ got. I'm like, what did he get? So she'll point out something from a week ago. And then she'll ask for it. And I'll be like, oh, fair's fair. Okay, let's get you the Barbie Dream House.
How old is she?
She's 6, and she's got me wrapped around the finger. And my wife's like, you're too easy on her. My son goes to sit time 4 times a day, but he just runs up and smacks things because he's 2 years old and everything is fight guys. But boy, she's got a reckoning when she turns like 12, 13 and has to earn things. It's going to be fun.
Yeah. It's only around the corner, man. I hear it goes quick.
That's what everyone's saying. I'm looking forward to what happens between now and then. You do the news, right? Still?
Yeah. I mean, I tried doing it once a week, and then it was just like people weren't getting called out as much. And I don't know. I have several people message me about Dustina, and they're like, this hurts my sensibilities. I'm like, oh, well, I'm sorry, and I thought it was doing more harm to my B2B than good, which is kind of what I wanted. So I was like, I'm going to take a break from that. If I get enough people ask me to bring the news back, then I will. And then I don't know, I didn't do it for like a month. I just had people always in my DMs like, do you see what's happening in CPRST right now? You've got to do the news on this. You've got to do the news on this. And I was like, all right, well, I'll bring it back. And then, so now I try to just do it whenever there's news. Like if there's something to say, or there's somebody that needs to be called out, or anything like that, then yeah, I'm going to do it. But I'm not going to be like, all right, once a week it's happening. It's too much to pretty much not have any content. I started the news, and then everybody was like, Dusten's the new referee. Right. So anytime anything ever happened in the groups, at the high point of the CPRST news anyway, it was people, both parties in my DMs, like, this is what's going on, and da. And at one point I was spending more time trying to figure out the bullshit on who's lying and who's telling the truth, and having to go through all of the evidence, and we're talking about like 40 screenshots from both people. Oh, yeah. So it's like, you're going to have to go through all this. And I was spending more time doing that than I was doing board work. And if I was like, okay, well, I'll do that tonight, and then I'll do the board work during the day, then I had my wife in my ear, like, you never spend time with me anymore, and which is something that I dealt with. I mean, I started Geek Boy Repairs, doing that alone back in March, but doing it with Geekmatics, because there was a time frame in there where I was doing B2B for myself and with Geekmatics, and was just like, I would go to work from 9 to 6. And I'd come home and be in my office from like 6:30 to 1, 2 in the morning. And, that went on for almost a year, however long it was. And it drove a real wedge between my wife and I, where she was like, all you do is, work, and you don't care. And you're in that office all night. And I'm just like, baby, I'm trying to build a business. This is the struggle of building a business, and I mean, it was one of the scary things I think I've ever done in my life is quit Geekmatics and do Geek Boy full time, and kind of commit to that. And it was just, am I going to make it? Am I going to have enough money? It's going to be really embarrassing going back to Geekmatics and being like, well, I failed, and I didn't want that. So
you have that opportunity. At least you maintained a decent reputation, dude.
Yeah.
I don't envy starting a business post 2018. The loopholes and the bullshit, the reputational, like, niche one bad review can cause. Like, we've been open since 2014, and we're 4.5 stars across the board. We got hit with 31 stars by a pretty crazy customer. She every day for a month, new account, new email. And it got us down to like 4 stars on Google. But that hasn't, for me in a brick and mortar, it doesn't hurt business. Most people see my responses and they'll be like, hey, honestly, here it is. And so we just kind of like let it go. We're like, all right, great. Yelp.
Well, and it's so much worse in B2B because it's not it's not on Google. It's in this group that everybody knows you. And I think Jesse and I have the same philosophy. If we mess up in any way, we are going to go above and beyond to make it right for you guys, because it's just something that your post dragging us is not worth it to us, that no matter what it is. I mean, we pride ourselves on not once being dragged in the groups. And it's something that you cannot say that. I mean, there's like several people you can say that about, but it's so few and far between on the people that a lot of people do micro soldering B2B, but you can say, yep, that person's been dragged for this, that person's been dragged for this. And then you see pictures of their work and you're like, and I'm not naming any names, but it's like, well, that's why they're getting dragged.
You get so the same in the unlock side of things too. Like, what was his name?
Definitely.
Alfie got dragged.
Yeah. For multiple times.
Days. He blocked me for asking what one of the drags was for. And I was like, all right, cool. Like, I don't mind. But then I would always see his name tagged in things. I was like, what does he do? Like, how does he get so much hate? But then I realized he's part of the ones that reputation isn't more of his brand. It's either reputation or it's just the money coming in that they care about. You guys are on the reputation side. The money coming in people, they're like, well, I'll rob Peter to pay Paul. It's fine.
Well, I think it's more of a philosophy of you need a good reputation to bring the money in. I mean, we're talking about B2B. Your reputation is everything. And this is with anybody in the groups. I mean, and even if you do micro soldering, you do screen refurbishing, or you sell devices, whatever it is, your reputation is everything. You get enough posts. I would say it only takes a couple. But you had people like Alfie, who at one point was getting dragged once a week by a different person for a different scenario. And it got so bad. But then you had these people on the post still defending him. And it's like, and I'll be honest, I was one of those people, because I like Alfie. I think he's a cool dude. I would definitely drink a beer with him, right? But I was one of those people that was like, no, Alfie's solid, Alfie's solid. And by like the third one, I'm like, okay, well, I can no longer say Alfie is solid, because now it's going to be my reputation on the line, right? It's something where if I keep saying he's good, then I'm going to get hurt by it. And so you just have to look. That's why I pay very close attention to who I vouch for. And now it's like, if you're not like 99, 100% never been dragged, then I'm probably not going to vouch for you.
God, yeah. I couldn't imagine being a person providing a service in these groups anymore. It's a sticky road, especially now.
It can be rough.
Yeah. You mentioned so you've had this for a year now, almost, but you've also only been married for a year. I got to say, your wife is going to feel like she's battling you for that business. I know mine came around in 2018, and my business has been around 5 years longer than her. So she knew it was my baby. So she's very accommodating, but still she does the same thing where it's like, we don't spend enough time together. You're home working on doing this, doing that. And I got a lot of passion projects too. So,
that's one thing that, go ahead.
She understands, but she's also like, hey, we need some quality time.
And that was one of the things that because you said I had this for a year, I actually had Geek Boy repairs for almost a little over 2 years now. And then it was just solely since March. So it's something that she used to really feel that way when it was both. But once it switched to just Geek Boy, I tried to be done, let's be honest, by 4. But I mean, there are some times where I have people are like, hey, I'm in a rush for this, or the queue is just so large where it's like, okay, I'm going to be working till 11 or 12, but it's never every night anymore. It's now she feels that we're spending time together because I'm done. And then when she comes home, we normally go watch a movie, or we make dinner together, or whatever we can do to kind of see exactly quality time. So now I would say she's very happy with it the way it is now.
Good.
I hope anyway. That's what she tells me.
So you guys weren't affected by Ian, right?
By who?
Hurricane.
Oh no, Ian. No, no. It was we were in a mandatory evacuation zone. I live in Tarpon Springs, is like the actual area, and I'm at. And they were like, you guys have to go. It's not a choice. So I packed up I didn't grab my tools or anything. I just was grabbing people's devices. Like, I can't just leave this stuff here. If we get flooded, I don't want to call, 50 people and be like, Mac, what you sent them for data recovery. It's now looking a lot worse.
Dude, insurance is the main reason that I'm a business owner right now. It is crazy. The first burglary, I profited $80,000, and I didn't have 80,000. So I'll tell you the story. I got a bunch of recycled laptops back in 2015 when I first opened this location. That's when they stole, I think it was like 95 laptops that were all from like 1990 all the way up to 2010. And the guy was stuck in his downtown loft. He's like, hey, I just get one every year. So it was 90 of them that he had kept getting for parts and stuff, gave them to me. I serialized everything, put it on a Google Doc, and I was like, okay, what are these worth? I'm going to do my due diligence. Well, holy shit, not even a week later, guy comes up with a van, and they, at the time we had a security door on the back, and they just pry barred it twice and it broke it. I was like, what the fuck? Like, didn't have to do anything. The second burglary, they tow hitched the door, ripped it off the wall. And
they weren't fucking around.
Dude, we get burglarized once a year on average. It's crazy. But I will say, I will never up the security as long as I am protected, because, hey, go ahead. I've got insurance.
But for me, the thing, that's not even what it's about. For me, it's people's data. I mean, you can't put a price tag on people's data, you know, and I'm not saying I'm not going to get insurance or anything, because that's actually on my list to do. But I mean, she's just said insurance puts a price on data.
They do. So I've only had two customers have lost data. I've had a 1 terabyte customer got $42,000 for, and then I've had a 128 customer got about 12,000. So they put a price on the amount of data and pay the customer.
Well, let me ask you this: Did the customer take you to court, and then the court said it was this amount of money, and then the insurance paid, or the insurance just made like, hey, it's worth $40,000?
Because I was like, hey, we're doing data recovery on this. Even though one of them was a screen repair, I'm like, hey, we're doing a data recovery on this. This is how much it was. Here's what we quoted them. I think we did tier systems back then were like 2, 4, and 600 for data recovery. And so we're like, hey, other places charge 5, 10, 15,000, you know, and this is when, what was that big place? Drive Savers. Yeah, they charged so much back then. And I was like, well, this customer's going to sue me. I know they are, especially I'm liable. It's not just for the $1,000 laptop, but all the distress, they'll easily get this. I think we should pay them. This is what we're insured for, right? And the first lady was like, yeah, they offered 42,000. I'm like, take it. Dead grandma? Fucking take it. You'll understand that. Invest it. Do whatever you got to do. I hadn't even got my offer. They probably did $5,000 worth of damage. But all those laptops that were serialized, they paid me $1,000 per laptop.
Wow.
Because that was the retail replacement value. And that's what I was insured for. I didn't realize that, but the girl I was dating back in 2015 was an insurance broker. She wrote the policy. She gave me the best of the best. That insurance policy paid for 50 years of insurance that I will never not pay for. Up the price. I don't care.
That kind of just sold me on it. I've only been robbed one time, and I work from home. So it was like they broke into my house. And this was when I was still working at Geekmatics. So I had a day job, and my wife obviously wasn't home. Broad daylight. And we live in a nice neighborhood, right? I mean, it's not like I live in the... Exactly. So they break in, and you know, they kind of ransacked the place. And I'm very lucky because they didn't take a single client device. Like the guy was in it was a man and a woman in a relationship. And the guy was in my office at the time. I didn't have security cameras, and I didn't have an alarm system at my house. You know, I was saying, you live in a good neighborhood. Nobody knows what I'm doing in there. I mean, you know, I'm kind of thinking I'm flying below the radar. The guy's in my office for like 20 or 30 minutes. And I'm just like, I'm watching the security footage of like, I had it in the living room area, so I could kind of note, I knew he was in here, and I'm just like, oh my God, what is he going to take? What is he going to take? What is he going to, I'm like in my office, like trying to see if anything's missing and all this. And you know, I realized nothing is gone. I mean, they took my wife's Apple Watch, her Switch, like a jug full of like dollar change. We put dollars or whatever in there. You know, they took that and exactly. And they also took the security cameras, which I thought was funny because I assume they're Nest, so they're cloud-based, right? So I literally got him grabbing the camera off the wall, and I'm showing it to the cop, and the cop goes, I know exactly who that is. And I'm like, you've got to be shitting me. So I mean, the cops leave, and I would say up until like 3 a.m, I had the cops knocking on my door, bringing my stuff back, including my security cameras. And the only thing that they didn't bring back was my wife's Nintendo Switch. So I bought her a new one. I was like, that was a good, successful robbery if there was such a thing, right? I was like, this is exact. But since then, I have security cameras in every room except like the bedroom and stuff like that, the bathroom, obviously. And then I have alarm in the house, glass break everywhere. You open a window, I'll know about it.
I waited 11 months for the burglary in 2021 to pay me last month, and it was only 35 grand. But I was like, okay, take your time. Somebody got COVID. Somebody got laid off, got moved to another department, investigation. And I was like, all right, great. We still got paid. They have to pay me.
Yeah.
That's not the problem. They're going to take their sweet time, drag their feet. But the people who are like, I need to get paid tomorrow from this burglary, they know there's a problem because somebody is either desperate for the cash or involved. I won't.
Well, let me ask, do your premiums go up? You said you get robbed once a year and you refuse to upgrade your security. Do your premiums go up every year?
Yeah. So I got dropped after the second burglary. I was paying $750 a year, and I ended up paying, I think it's 12. It was $1,250 2017, 2018. So now I'm paying about $1,500 a year with a $400 deposit. So then it's like $100 a month.
That's not bad at all.
Yeah.
Wow.
But it's California.
That's actually
too.
really good.
Yeah, it's stupid.
Yeah, I know.
Some people, they have to pay $3,000-$4,000 a year, but to us, we're only covered for $100,000 in personal damage, and then it's $1.5 million. So if a customer's loss exceeds $1 million, then I pay a percentage up to $5 million. But nobody can carry more than $100,000 worth of my goods out of here at a time, and especially with the alarm going on, that's a calculated risk. The insurance charges me a 4% deduction if I'm underinsured. So I was like, well, take 4% off, and then I'll just insure for $100,000 out of the $2 million that we have here. We'll be good. And so every time we get a burglary, they're like, 4% loss deduction. I'll take your $1,000 deposit. Okay, here you go. Here's all your earnings. And it's like a fire sale. And I tell people this, and I tell the insurance, I'm like, it's a fire sale every year. Black Friday to Christmas, something happens.
I love how you put that.
Dude, at this point, my family thinks I set it up. My employees are like, it's bad luck. I'm like, dude, I wish I could set it up this stupid, because most people are unmasked, fingerprints. It's America. And
I wish I had people that'd be willing to go to jail for that.
Dude, and the cops don't even get them most of the time. They're like, oh yeah, I got their face, I got their fingerprints. And then poof, magicians, they're a different person. Or maybe it's, with all the culture right now, they go and get a sex change. But it's, dude, there's no way that the cops are this bad with this much evidence nowadays. To me, it is outstanding.
Sometimes I feel that if it's not a more serious crime, they're so overwhelmed that they're like, we got a murder case we got to work on. Like, fuck that guy.
They always tell me it's domestic violence is the reason that they're here 6 hours after a burglary, and they're like, yeah, it's a domestic violence call. Really? Every time?
6 hours? Wow.
The last one was 6 hours. I didn't even get the call because my phone was off. My son was wrapped around me, phone died. And then I go in the next morning at 10 a.m., doors shattered. Front door. Cases are ripped off the wall. We had a double wide glass case that was shatterproof glass. So they ended up ripping the walls of the wood off. They had so much time, and they still only got like 30 grand worth of stuff. Stupid people.
Wow. So you mentioned you're moving to you're in California, but you're going to Oklahoma. Is that because the taxes in California are ridiculous? I mean, cost of living out there is incredibly high.
So taxes and cost of living. I'll spend 22 cents on the dollar out there living. So we rent out here. I was going to buy in 2020. So we rent for almost $1,800 a month. After paying their water, sewer, garbage, and their taxes, we're paying like $2,600 for a 4-bedroom that the bedrooms are smaller than my office here. Even my kids are like, yeah, let's spend time in the living room, And so I hate the place. They don't take care of it well, and we can't do upgrades. And I'm like, I just want something different. Well, we went to go and rent. They're like, yeah, $2,900, 2-month deposit. And then we want, what is it? So it'll do like $6,000 down. And then they want a 5-year lease now, like rental. I'm like, what do you mean 5 years? It's supposed to be 12 months.
That's ridiculous.
In Oklahoma, hey, you want 3 months? You want to just pop and shop? I don't care. But even the commercial lease, it was $800 for 2,700 square feet. And I'll have I'm having a false wall put up so we can do the studio and a lot of the social media stuff we're doing on the side. And then, we'll do the the standard repair yet. I've got 3D printers that I'll have over there. I do all the rug tufting. I make these custom candles here.
I saw that on your desk when I first got in. I was like, wow, those are some weird looking candles, man.
Have you ever seen Fifth Element?
Yes.
Yeah, these are the stones.
Back a long time ago, so don't ask me movies or questions about it.
Dude, I spent like $700 on just the silicone for this, and I ruined $400 in silicone. I was devastated. I spent 2 days going like, I'm the idiot of the century who just spilt. I didn't seal it with the glue, so it poured out $400 worth of silicone from the mold, and it was just like I'd invested so much hard-earned time into this and just ruined it. It was so great.
I want a 3D printer, but man, I'm not creative enough to have one. Like you see all these people in the groups making these awesome things with 3D printer. And I'm like, that is amazing. Stuff. I want one just to have
print their stuff. That's what I do.
Just print
I don't know. I can't 3D model to save my life. Even Eric has talked about doing it. I wish I could 3D model. I'd make my kids do the whole foot thing with the casting. And then I was like, nah, that's a lot of fucking work. Fiverr, people do it for $1. So I'll send them a picture, they'll model it, and then they send it back to me, and that's it.
That's nice.
Dude, it's outsourcing everything is what I do now. It's much easier, and I hate to be that guy who's like fat and full of it, but yeah, here we go. Outsourcing. Life works that way. It's a lot more. I'm a lot happier. I only have to work 5 days a week, certain amount of hours in the day. As long as I put it into whatever project, I'm happy. That's where I'm moving. Why I moved to Oklahoma, man. I'll have a lot more free time. I only have to work noon to 5 days a week. And
wow, that's great.
Yeah.
Well, what's your opportunity out there?
So I can do the cell phone. AT&T, T-Mobile, and Verizon are right underneath me, so they don't have any repair place. And then the 3D printing will be real nice. People have a lot of needs out in the Midwest that they don't know how to fill. I was like, oh shit. But I do the candles. My wife does the body scrubs, shea butters, all that stuff. She makes decent money off of it. She finally got terminated from her job working from home today, so she's excited. She milked that out.
She's excited.
Yeah, so she milked that out for a while. She was like, I hate it here. I'm going to do, they call it quiet quitting now, where you do as minimal amount of work as possible. She's been there 6-7 years. She got catapulted through the ranks, and she makes a lot of money, but then they just treated her like shit for the last couple of months. And she's like, nope. All right, here we go. Instead of walking out, I'll let them fire me. She'll collect on it, and then opportunities, Dude, I wasn't insured until that girl I was dating was batshit crazy, but her father owned the insurance firm. And he was like, listen, if you're going to date my daughter, you got to do it right. We're going to get you a handbook for your employees. We're going to get you insurance. We're going to make you a business owner. Well, thank you, sir. There you go. I was just a guy. I had a plastic table, a PS3, and a TV. And a handwritten board on the front of the building that said cell phone repairs until that burglary. That burglary, Here we go. We need brand new everything. We repainted pegboards, the world. Because, man,
So you getting robbed actually kind of just did nothing but help you.
Nothing but help me. I had $2,500 in the bank. That was it. And then, hey, let me take out $30,000 in cash. And I was like, oh, it was one of those things that catapulted life in the direction I wanted. Absolutely. I tell that story to people all the time. They're like, no way. I'm like, it's like hitting the lotto, except you knew the lotto would hit, so you paid a portion to protect the lotto winnings, Especially if you're in a really nice or fancy area and you bring in, like, shit. Where I'm at now is a public road, and I wear Yeezys. They're $300 shoes, right? I know somebody's going to see that, and if they wanted to, they could kick in the front door. I got cameras. They're not going to care about that. Mask will cover faces. If I'm not armed to protect myself or insured to protect my assets, then I'm fucked. Especially in California. Yeah. People are like, oh, if I didn't shoot him, I'm only getting a misdemeanor. So.
Well, honestly, I was just about to say, I would be scared to death to have a gun in California. I mean, even if I needed it, I feel like they're really strict over there. Like Texas, or not Texas, but here in Florida, we have stand your ground law. Mm-hmm. If you kick in my door, I can shoot you. No questions asked. Like,
I can't shoot him in the back. That's the only thing.
Yeah, I don't think you can shoot him in the back anywhere.
Well, no. So, like, say if I point and then they run away, if somebody shoots them, then that's attempted murder. If they get shot in the front, kicking in the door, and that is protecting yourself. California's strict on that. But I own 11 handguns, and even with my military discharge, going through PTSD and everything, they didn't say anything. I got treatment after I got out, got on drugs, got sober, and I applied, and they were like, "Yeah."
See, I don't think PTSD is enough to say you can't have a gun, right? I think you have to make an example or do something that would say, okay, I mean, he did it because of his PTSD, but now we're going to look at the gun situation. You know what I mean?
If they would have given me a gun in 2011, I would have killed somebody. Absolutely.
Say that.
I'm honest about it, because I've sought treatment. The VA did me right. Everyone says the VA is shitty, but I'm very happy. It's one of those things that I was angry and weirdly in a place where I couldn't trust my mind. So I sought drugs instead of violence, luckily, even though, it was a whole thing for a couple of years. But man, the world has never been better. It's once we decided to move, we're like, yeah, F you, California, It's
and Jesse fled too. He ran away from California as quick as he could.
It's zero income tax in Vegas. I didn't think about it, but then I'm also an addictive personality, so I'm like, gambling. Here we go again.
Yeah.
We had the crypto. Now if we go, it'd be bad.
I have a funny story about gambling. I was playing Texas Hold'em at a casino, and I was like playing on the app a lot. I didn't pay to play on the app, but it's not one of those apps. It's just to pay, or not to pay, but just to play for fun. And I wasn't really good. I thought I was. So I met my wife one time. We went to a casino, the Hard Rock Cafe, and I'm playing there. We're probably there till like 12 o'clock. And I think I brought in 1,000. I was out of money, but I was having such a good time. I mean, people in real life are a lot better than on the app, obviously. Oh, yeah. So I was having such a good time. I went to Kayla, it was my wife and wife. She was up. She was playing like the slots or anything. She was killing it. Then I'm like, baby, I need 500 or 100. It was. That's all she gave me. She gave me $100 to continue. So I went down. I got $100 worth of chips, and I sat at the table, and I played one hand, and I lost. And I was just like, you know what? I'm done. I take my chips back, and I go to the cash out, and where the lady proceeds to hand me $1,000. And I feel so bad about this now, but I was, young and stupid. And I looked at the $1,000, and I'm like, Kayla, we got to go now. Like, they fucked up. Somebody fucked up here. They just gave me $900 extra. We got to go. And I've never gambled since then. I was like, that was a sign from God. I'm not religious, but that was a sign from God that, like, you need to get the hell out and get out now and never do it again. So I've never gambled again. I wasn't like I was heavy into gambling. It was just like, it was about to be there. After that night, if that didn't happen, I would have gone there once a week at minimum. Probably spent all of my money that I'm saving up and all this, so I'm thankful that happened. I hope that lady didn't lose her job. I think about this maybe once every couple of months. And I'm just like, Kayla, why did you let me walk out of that casino like
probably
that?
Wasn't
I feel so
the
bad.
Dealer at the cage, but probably the dealer on the table that either cashed a 10 for a bunch of hundreds and gave you, instead of the ones or the $10 chips, a bunch of hundreds, and then you took it to the cage. So it's harder to get that. But I have a funny story before we end it. Money from that insurance. So we have something called Thunder Valley here, which is our casino. And so me and my girlfriend at the time went to Thunder Valley. January 1st, we got tickets, this little band and 3-course meal. And we're like, great. So it took $1,500. I was like, all right, cool. Just got paid from that burglary in November. And I was like, I wonder what it's like to play on the high roller machines. They had this place called the High Roller Cafe. And so it was like $50 spins, $100 spins, $500 spins. I'm like, well, try the $50 spins. I like the dollar machines for $9 a spin. And first spin, $2,200 hand pay. It's like, okay, cool. Let's put this back in and see if we can hit again. And
that's your first mistake.
No. This is where it gets good. All of a sudden, we're down $1,000, and I'm like, all right, well, that's half of it. Let me just spin a couple more times. I do this double tap, and the machine goes black. And so all of a sudden, it does this like lightning strike thing where it starts glowing on the side. Well, it turns out they have what is called the lightning strike jackpot for $151,000.
I need to start hanging out around you, Chris. It sounds like you're very lucky.
2017 to 2018, I spent probably $250,000 at Thunder Valley, back and forth, up and down, up and down. And so this is, again, how I fueled my business, and then burglary, insurance, all that money. But man, I was living like a baller. I had the Louis Vuittons, everything going back and forth. And it was nuts because it was a very toxic relationship. But I learned real fast that they really give you that money in hopes that you'll spend it again. Because I got black car service, jets to Vegas, five-star Michelin meals. I even got craps tables where it reminded me of what you said, because a craps dealer gave me $2,600 in chips for a $26 bet once, which was really funny. And so I cashed that out. I felt bad for a while, and then I'm like, I put like 50 grand here over the last 2 months. Like, nah. But gambling, kids, is bad in any form. Only take what you're willing to lose. Don't be a dick about it.
100%.
It's not recommended. Well,
yeah, it's addicting because it's fun, kids.
In a bad way. Only if you're of legal age. Don't do it online. It's even worse.
And now we're demonetized. No,
I don't, not monetized anyway. It's crazy. I got to get the subscribers up, man. I just don't want to put Google Ads money into this as like.
Where's your subscriber at right now?
I think we're at like 106 or something. I don't pay attention to the analytics except for when like my political little shorts go through the roof and I'm like, oh shit, 60,000, 70,000 views. Like, people really hate.
That's crazy. Your shorts are getting that many views and you only have 150 subscribers or however much.
That's what I thought too, but it's always the political ones. It makes me want to be very political, so it shifts the narrative. I really enjoy talking to people. There's something about.
I shut that right down,
dude. There's something about just like learning more about somebody and finding that they're not the thought you had before of them is different. I've known you a little bit, so it's a little easier, but man, it's nuts.
No, yeah, I've never been to jail. Well, no, that's not true. Yeah, I have actually. Sorry, my memory's the worst, but it was only for a day.
Yeah, DUI crew.
It's something. Yeah, wasn't even that, man. It was fucking Walmart, dude. I swear to God. I'll go into this. I'll go into this quickly. So I was at Walmart at the time. I was taking Adderall. So I was at Walmart filling up my subscription or prescription, and they were like, "Oh, it's gonna be 30 minutes." So I'm like, "Cool, I'll just shop around." So I'm like at Walmart shopping, and I grab a Bluetooth headset, and I'm sitting at like the pharmacy, and I open it up, and I'm like, I go up to the pharmacist, and I'm like, "Hey, I'm gonna go smoke a cigarette. Can I pay for this now?" She's like, "Just pay for it whenever you're done, right? Or whenever you're thing, just pay for it at that time." I'm like, "Oh, okay, cool." So I walk out, and as soon as I walk out, I have this. I know it's gonna go on YouTube. I have this lesbian that is bigger than me tackle me. And at this point, I am livid because I just talked to somebody who was like, "Do I need to pay for this first or what?" But I was screaming things that should not have been screaming. So, but by the time I got back into their room or whatever, they go, the cops show up. And as soon as I saw the cops, I immediately calmed down. I went, "Yes, sir, no, sir." I like right from "you stupid butt" to "yes, sir, no, sir."
What was the year?
So I'm like, this was shit. I want to say 8-9 years ago. Okay. So I'll have to look it up. I have a beautiful mugshot, which on Google you can't find. You can't find the mugshot, but on DuckDuckGo, one of the first things that pop up. But anyway, so the cops get there. And I'm like, "All right, man, this is all misunderstanding." They're like, "We don't even want to hear it. You're going to jail." I'm like, "Well, all right then. Okay, I'm going to jail." And then I did in court because it was just, I mean, the pharmacist had my ID. That's what pissed me off so much. I'm like, I clearly wasn't leaving. I was just going to smoke a cigarette. Like, the cigarette was in my hand and everything. I was literally just going right there. And that's why I was so mad. I was like, if you would have just fucking heard me out before tackling me or been like, "Excuse me, sir, are you going to pay for that?" I'd be like, "Actually, I can pay for it if you'd like, but I just talked to, gone into the whole story." But she decided to tackle me. And I was really upset by that. And so in court, I paid for a lawyer. And at this time, I was still working for Geek Man. This was way before Geek Boy. And so the lawyer was like $4,000, which I did not have. So it was like I had to pay and in sections, and I missed like 3 or 4 payments, not in a row, but just like by the time I like was late on the 4th payment, the lawyer was
context,
like,
$4,000 9 years ago was like $30,000 now. So yeah, that's a lot of money.
So I was at the time I missed a couple of payments. He was like, "Yeah, you're gonna have to find somebody else to represent you." So like when I actually went up in the court, I was just like, no contest, do the intervention program. Just, I want this to be out of my life. I want to forget about it. And my employers at the time were super worried about it. They're like, you could go to jail for this. I'm like, this is a misdemeanor theft charge. Nobody's going to jail. The most that's going to happen is I'm going to get fined, have to pay some restitution. That's it. But no, it was a really shitty point in my life. I was not, and it wasn't even about the theft. It was about my mouth. If I would have just kept my mouth shut and not started screaming, I probably wouldn't even gone to jail. They probably wouldn't have filed charges. We could have just like worked this out like adults, but I was in a different place back then. I'll just put it that way. Like, and I wish I would have thought about it. And like now, I mean, it's real hard to get my anger or my temper up there. Like you would have to be really, I mean, like James just went live the other day and he starts saying, he's like, oh, there's only like 3 people in the group I like, Dusten, Matt, and JP. And, but Dusten, he's a faggot and this and that. And yeah. And I'm sitting there listening to the live and I'm like, because of Dustina, my sister, right? And I'm sitting there listening to the live. I'm like, dude, put me in this live. Like, you're not going to sit here and like for 5 minutes, he was just ragging on me. I'm like, you're not. And CPRST. And people are like, put him on the live. And James is like, oh, he doesn't want to go on the live with me. I'll tear his ass up. I'm like, put me on the live, bro. Put me on the live. And then we go on the live. And he's actually respectable. It's like 100% change. I'm like, oh, what happened? You know what I mean?
I really think he is just a big teddy bear that likes to act like he is the Chucky play doll. You know what I mean? It's like, I'm your best friend till the end. And then he's just like, give a hug. You know, he's a dad.
I wanted to meet him in San Antonio, but
I know, right?
But he told me, he said, if you come to my shop, I'm punching you in the face. And I'm like, well, it's not worth the risk. So
yeah, I don't then own the shop. See, I love, the only benefit about California is if you are owed something, you will get it. You know what I mean? California courts are good about restitution, serving. They'll take everything out of your house if your grandmother owned it or you own it, and they'll sell it off for parts. I get 12 times a year to sue somebody. Don't always take 12, but there's people who owe me money for things. And if I didn't get robbed, man, my life, I would never have known these things. How did it feel to be the only person that ended up winning the micro soldering championship? I didn't see that till last night.
I'm not going to lie to you. It was disappointing. And because for one, I shouldn't have won. The sign up was at 9:30. Okay. And I got in Wednesday night and I decided to stay up till 4 a.m. getting drunk with people that I'd never met before because I was having a good time. So I didn't roll up into the expo until like 10:30. And even then, the micro soldering competition was not the first thing I did. Like Nate Miner and I just kind of walked around, ate lunch. And then while we were eating lunch, he was like, so you're going to do the micro soldering competition? I was like, honestly, I haven't decided yet. I want to see who signs up, And they was like, well, sign up was at 9:30. So it looks like you missed it. And I'm like, oh shit. So I went to Jessa, who's putting on the competition. And Jessa goes, you can't compete. It wouldn't be fair to everybody else because I've already had a few people ask me after the sign up to compete. And I told them no. And I was like, well, damn, that sucks. And I was like, well, let me take the test. There was a written test first. That was the sign up at 9:30 was a written test. And she said nobody had scored 100% on it. So I'm like, okay, I always never back away from a challenge, right? So I'm like, give me the test. I'd look at the test. I go through all the questions and I give it back to Jessa. I'm like, Jessa, if I got 100% on this test, you have to let me compete. And she was like, yeah, she didn't really say anything. So she's grading it and I got 100%. So at that point, I'm like, Jessa, you've got to let me compete. You got to let me compete. And she was like, okay, you got to find an iPhone 7 because the challenge was reballing TriStar, right? So she was like, you have to find an iPhone 7 and you have to get Nicole's permission. So I'm running around the expo, like my head cut off, like asking all these vendors, like, do you happen to have an iPhone 7 laying around? I know that's a 10-year-old phone, but maybe. And they were, luckily I found one from Axiom Armor. Here's your shout out, Mark, right here.
Mark, yeah.
Protection Pro's only a little better.
Yeah. Well, Axiom's got a whole different, everyone always fights them. It's a different niche, right? You got vinyl and you got glass, basically. But Axiom Armor to me is more like that glass shield that gives a little more rigidity to the outdoorsy type. The vinyl is for the customer who needs the everyday run and gun, nothing outdoorsy, the business model, sleek and seductive. So shout out Mark.
So I go to Mark. Mark actually had one, and he was like, "Yeah, you can use this non-functional phone anyway." I'm like, "I don't care as long as it charges because that's the challenge. Don't even have to turn on. Doesn't matter." So I take it back to Jess and I talked to Nicole, and Nicole's like, yeah, I don't care if you compete. I wanted you to compete. I'm like, perfect. So I go back to Jessa, and Jess at this point just looks annoyed because I think she was expecting Nicole to say no. So she was like, all right, you can compete. And then I'm like, cool, I'm in the competition, da da da. And then Chris AD, who's a buddy of mine, he was like, oh, you're in the competition? Well, definitely then I'm going to be in the competition. And I'm like, that ain't happening. You don't even know what I just had to do to get in this competition. Like, you ain't getting in. And then somebody he was with was like, no, he's going to get in. And I'm like, I'll bet you $100 it doesn't happen. So she goes up to Jessa and just like tortures Jessa to the point where Jessa tells Nicole, Dusten can't compete. I can't say yes to him and no to somebody else. So Dusten's not competing anymore. So I wasn't even going to compete. And Nicole came up to me. I was like, that's fine. It was just for fun for me. I don't really care that much, but thanks for trying, essentially. And so during the competition, actually, somebody just didn't show up. Richard Spears, he said he didn't want to do it anymore. So he didn't show up. Thank you, Richard, for allowing me to compete. So by default, I was in the competition. But to answer your initial question, how did I feel about it? I was disappointed because, not to hate on anybody who's in the competition, but it was not the only thing they did every day, right? So we were talking about like 13, 14-minute TriStar changes. And, it would have been better in my mind if there was like 30 people who knew how to micro solder really well, that on the average do a 2 to 3 minute TriStar, because that's really how long it takes, right? Just 2 to 3 minutes. It's such a quick job. Dude, I did it in 6 minutes and like 40 seconds. And I don't know how I did it, because my hand was like this. I was up on that stage. And it's not only that's a boxing ring, which is, it's bouncy. And Jess is up there like going back and forth. Like, what are you asking us to tell us jokes? She's also making fun of me. She was like, oh, you put a camera in Dusten's face and he can't stop shitting his pants or something stupid like that. So I'm over here shaking my hand, and I do it in like 6 minutes, 40 seconds. I don't even test it. I'm just like, all right, I'm done. Because that was what you had the opportunity to test it and then redo it. And which I thought some people did. And I'm like, it doesn't matter, because even if you test it and it doesn't work, what are you going to do? Pull the chip off and do it again? You just doubled your time. Like, this is a thing about speed, right? So it's like, if I did it and failed, whatever, I don't care. I'm not going to pull it back off and go through all this again. So it just done. I was done. And of course, Jessa reads them from like the slowest to the fastest. So like half of them didn't work. And the runner up to me was 6 minutes and 50 seconds, but it didn't work. Right. So then the next runner up that actually worked was like 8.5 minutes or something like that. But I was disappointed. I felt like it wasn't fair, because it wasn't like mainly B2B micro soldering people. Like, if Jesse was there, Chris AD was able to compete, which Chris did go on the stage after. He did the TriStar. I'm going to make fun of you, Chris. He did the TriStar in a longer amount of time than I did, and it still didn't work. So he was, so it was like, all right, because he was saying, oh, I got this. So it was
did
funny.
You get your $100?
It was 500, and I split it with the runner up, because, like I said, I didn't think it was fair. So I just kind of went up to him. I was like, here's the 250. Good game.
And you got a pretty expensive belt. I saw that you were. No, the reason I even knew that you won was I saw your post with Repair Babe, and I couldn't find a video from Nicole or Jessa about the actual event, or I didn't see it because it wasn't live streamed.
It wasn't. Yeah.
I was like, why? That was such a missed opportunity.
That was kind of what I was thinking. I'm not sure why they didn't. I don't know if they're going to post the video later, but it was definitely a missed opportunity. But it was also like in the middle of the competition, both microscopes, it was head to head. Everybody went head to head, from like the people who had the slow or scored the worst on the test to the people that like did the best on the test. Those were the people that were going head to head, right? And halfway through the competition, somebody needed to do a demo for soldering, and then took one of the cameras for the scope. And I'm like, how? In the middle of a competition, are you just going to take one of the scope cameras? I mean, now nobody can see what this guy over here is doing. Everybody's just watching this guy, which was irritating. You could see Jessa was not happy about it. Like, she was like, somebody just took, and then it was like brand new cameras Jessa bought for the competition. They didn't even bring the power cable back. Yeah, she wasn't very happy with it. But no, it was a lot of fun. But I wish it was more difficult. Like, I shouldn't have won because my hands were shaking, and I did it in 6 minutes and 40 seconds. Like, if everybody did it in under 5 minutes, that would have been a great competition.
It's one of those things, when I heard the time, I was like, what the hell happened? Because even me, I am not an expert at soldering, but a 7 TriStar in under 10 minutes is not a crazy thing. It's mostly what we do. That's most of my techs who are not microsoldering techs still do TriStars. And
Yeah.
even if you didn't paste it, you could paste it by your thumb. Heat, ball, done, you know?
Yeah.
2 minutes if you had board out. So I was expecting them to just give you boards and like power DC, you know, great, test it that way. But they didn't live stream it. So it's all up to imagination. Oh, shit.
I hope that, because there was cameras everywhere. I mean, they were definitely recording it. So it was disappointing to hear that
they have the opportunity. They have a big platform. And I know Jessa seems to me like she's probably getting more fed up with the repair side of things and like really getting into the pushing the movement and lobbying. You know, she might be done with the fun and games of it all, because it's getting frustrating for some of the people who are making waves in the legal side of repair. But Nicole's coming up and being more of a trainer and doing the cell biotics thing. That's pretty cool. I'm surprised with all the funding they have that it wasn't out the same day. That's just crazy to me. Like,
and I don't know if they're planning on it even. You know, I mean, I remember somebody asked if we're live streaming this, and Nicole just said, no, we're not. It's for, you know, people there only. And I remember thinking, I'm like, well, that kind of sucks, you know, but it's whatever. And then, you know, people were saying, oh, it's only a TriStar reball. And, you know, that's kind of what my thought was when I heard the competition. Like, it was such an easy job. But Jessica made a very good point where what else would have been fair? If you have a diagnostic type of thing, then you see if it's a different diagnostic or if it's a different problem, you're going to have people saying, oh, that wasn't fair. This person got this and this person got this, right? And then if you did the same problem, everybody saw the previous people solved it. So it was like, how you can't really do diagnostics. So that's out. And what job could you do that just shows skill? And I think they did the right one. It was an iPhone 7, and you know how half the TriStars underneath the shield, right? So I think they did probably pick the most difficult of the TriStars to do, and you saw people were cutting shields. I mean, people were wicking pads. And I'm like, you guys, this is a competition. You need to be able to, like, I mean, they were adding flux before they removed the chip. And I'm like, you don't have to do that. That's an extra step. Like, and you saw me, dude, I just grabbed the chip, did the drop method and held that iron there, or held the hot air there until that bitch dropped, and then reballed it and threw it right back on. But what took the longest time was, one, the reball, because everybody was using 138 paste. And I'm like, I do not work with 138. In my mind, that was cheating. Like, you had the option to use 183 or 138. 138 is a lower melting point, so automatically your placement's going to be quicker.
But also, it's very messy if you overheat that. It will jump, connect, not work.
Yeah, exactly. And then so I opened up the 183, so it was fresh paste. And Jessa, like, as I didn't dry the paste in paper towel, and she was like, oh, I would have dried the paste. And I'm like, yeah, you also would have lost the competition. So I was like, I put that paste on there wet, and actually one of the balls didn't form. And like, I don't know where the hell the ball went, but I had done something that I'd never done before. I just added paste. I didn't even clean the pad, just added another thing of paste, and it worked perfect. And probably the longest that took me like 4 minutes out of the entire time was trying to place that chip with my hands going like this. Right? I was sitting there like struggling to get my chip in a position where I could just add heat and let surface tension take it. And at one point I was just like, you know what? Just add the heat. Like, I'm taking too much time trying to place this. I'm not going to be able to place it any better, because every time I touch it, I make it worse. So I just added heat, called it done, and walked away. I didn't even stay in the arena. I just like walked out. It was like I guess Hulk Hogan or somebody after they do the championship.
I see you as a mix of like Adam Sandler and Louis Rossmann. You know what I mean?
Wow, that means a lot,
dude. Yeah, you got the comedy.
Awesome. Thank you.
You just got to put out the content. You know what I mean? You definitely got it. You got to find that median. You know, start working 5 hours instead of 6 hours a day. I found a passion in doing this. The talking, getting my opinion out there. It's easier than yelling at my kids. You know.
And honestly, I think you're like, if there was somebody going to do this, I think you would be one of the ones that I chose. And essentially because you're known, but you're not so known, and also you're not biased in any way, right? Oh, yeah. So it's not like you're like, I don't even know how to really go into more detail about that with it. It's going to be very fair. You know what? I can't remember his name. The Art of Repair guy. Now I'm blanking on his name right now. Justin Ashford. Yes, Justin Ashford. Yes. he was telling me, he was like, and I gotta give a shout out to him. He actually helped me set up my OBS and make it look good and all that. Kind of gave me great tips to being a YouTuber. And but he told me, he's like, once you hit 1,000, man, it goes up from there. And he's not
Exactly.
wrong. Like, I rarely make content. I'm over 1,000. I got to 1,000 back when I was really pushing YouTube videos. And at the time, like, I got to the 1,000, and I don't know what happened. I just kind of stopped making videos. Like, now I maybe make one every 6 months if you're lucky. But my subscriber it continues to build without even doing anything. Now, if I was constantly making videos every single day, I'd be like Jesse. And it got to a point where I had more subscribers than Jesse at one point, because it's a kind of a joke between us, like, who's going to have more subscribers. And now he is so far out of reach. Like, it's not even a funny joke, but of who's going to have more subscribers, because he's clearly won. It's not only the amount of subscribers you have, it's your view time. And also if your subscribers watch your videos versus your non-subscribers that watch your videos. Yeah. So it kind of calculates all of it. That's why when I was first starting out, I had family members be like, send me your YouTube, I'll subscribe. I'm like, no. Don't subscribe to my channel unless you're going to watch my videos. Like, don't just be like, I'm a family member, I love Dusten, I'm going to subscribe. I don't want that shit. Nope. I want technicians, people who are going to like see, oh, Dusten made a new video, let's go watch it. Right? That's the subscribers I want, because that's what helps the YouTube algorithm. Right? So, and they were like, oh, okay, fine. They felt like probably I didn't love them as much. But I'm like, oh, I still love you. It's just, I
didn't even tell family about this for 7 months, because I was doing like personal things, venting about everything. And I was like, dude, if I told them about it, then it'd be nothing but drama. And of course, the moment they found out about it, it was drama. Because I was like, oh, my mother at a birthday party said this. And like, oh, shit. It was hell broke loose. So I was like, yeah, that's why I didn't share it on Facebook or have anybody talk about it. And I think that was beneficial. It got my confidence up to like speaking to a camera consistently, not saying the wrong things. I'm trying to cut back the cursing, because, boy, military people, you understand. Yeah. It's second nature, especially with my kids. I'm like, I'm so good around
That's
them.
The worst with me. Yeah. With kids, and I'm constantly like, oh, I'm so sorry. I didn't mean it. And then say another bad word 5 seconds later. I'm like, I cannot be around kids, because I do have a potty mouth. And I think YouTube has helped with that, and making the CPRST news has helped with that, because, Facebook would kick you off Facebook for almost anything these days. So it's like, I'm trying to be real professional and funny at the same time. So I think the videos have definitely helped with that.
Yeah, no, I'm excited for you, man. The CPRST news is so great. It's especially the Dustina shit, but like the way that you cut like to and from some of those like green screen moments, that's your bread and butter. Stick to that, where it's just like, and back to the newsroom and back to, that shit is classic, like SNL stuff. It's great. I love it.
All right, I'll actually have to do that. I got my screens in my spare bedroom now, because it was like taking up room in my office, and I never use, like, notice the news now. It went from like very basic to like me getting excited about it, buying a green screen, buying a mic, and all of this stuff, until like, I got 10 minutes to put this together. I'm gonna do it real quick.
I will say I've spent that entire insurance break from November on last year's insurance on this entire studio and cameras, and I can't stop buying nifty little shit. So I bought the Roadmaster Video Pro 2 wireless mics, the lavaliers. Well, they don't come with the actual lavalier attachment, so I had to buy those. But I got the ZG R30 charging case, which you can carry around all the lavalier mics for another $100. And I'm just like, shit, accessories. They're going to bankrupt me. It's horrible.
Yeah. See, that the thing is you committed to it. And at one point I committed to not the news, but to YouTube videos. And it's just, I don't know if you've seen on my profile, but I do these breakdowns of repairs, and so I'll take a picture and I go in depth on how I do the repair. And people are like, we love these. You need to do videos. And I'm like, you guys don't realize these pictures take me 20 minutes to do. A video will take me an hour and a half, 2 hours. It's taking a 10-minute repair into an hour and a half repair, because I stop and I explain, this is why I'm doing this. This is what makes this is why this makes sense, and go into that. And I'm like, once you get to a point in your queue where you were working from start to the end of the day and you still have more for tomorrow, that's where I struggle with, okay, now find the time to make videos. Where I know Jesse's queue is probably like 30 times larger than mine, but he still finds the time. I don't think that man sleeps.
He selects his carefully. Some things he won't take, some things he takes. He's got to do that, especially for the content. There's no way that man is there 12 to 11:59 the next day. Like, oh shit, racking his head on 60 items. He's either selectively picking it and going, okay, this is the cream of the crop. This is the business that'll make me the most, do the most for my brand. He's got to delegate it like that, especially.
I don't think so. I think he takes pretty much, if you message him, he will take it. I don't think, like, I'm selective with it. And I actually ask people, like, what's going on? Have you worked on it before? I don't think he does. And the reason I say that is because there's been times where I've had an all-nighter and I'll be up to like 4 or 5 in the morning. And I know he's in Las Vegas, so it's not that much of a time difference. But then he's still active talking in the private chats that we're in. It's like, Jesse, when do you sleep, brother?
He's got 2 dogs, a wife, and a new house. There's no way he's got that much time.
I don't know how he does it, man. I really don't. I'm gonna have to go like sit next to him and just be like, okay, all right, this is how. But it's also at the same time, I think it's because he's so good. Where if he literally can just run through these devices. You know what I mean? Where it's just
irk me that they're just a natural at something, and then they make it look so easy.
Yeah, exactly. I mean, at one point, it was like him and I were. There was a time where him and I were very equivalent on YouTube subscribers, and that's what made the joke of like who's going to have more funny.
Mm-hmm.
But and so we're there at the time where he was discussing like talking about going live, and I was nervous about it. Now it's a different animal, and now look at him; he goes live all the damn time. I mean, it is no worries about performing live on a camera. And I don't know, and I don't want to speak on him, but I think it's because he does the Pro Fixer course where every week he's got several live calls with all of these students. And I'm like, yeah, doing that every fucking week, that must help, But,
I remember when he started and all his stuttering and he had, Jess, don't take it personally. He was horrible doing live. It was almost, what's that guy? The Today Junior,
that's Adam Sandler, actually.
Yeah, that's exactly. And but man, now he's a natural. But it's all that thing where you build confidence. Like I said, I didn't share this for so long because I would skip or I would hold my breath and didn't know how to put the gain correctly. So you would hear, every breath, every little tick or mouth, and I was so worried about it. It was crazy. Now,
well, my main worry was that messing up on camera, like doing a video and then having hundreds of people be like, "You're an idiot," because how CPRST is. They're pretty brutal. Yeah. Like they are so brutal over there. So that was my main worry. Is like, I'm going to do these videos, everybody's going to hate me, and then it's just like, what built my confidence, I think, is the comments that you get on the YouTube videos where it's like, "Oh, you're great, you're natural. We want to see more content," and you don't get any negative. And it's like that right there builds your content. I mean, yeah, occasionally you get a thumbs down, which should not be anonymous, by the way. Like if you're thumbs down somebody's video, I want to know who you are. And I want to know why you're not happy. At least thumbs down and leave a comment and tell me why. Like, and that bothers Jesse too. You always see he posts on Facebook, he's like, somebody left me a mean comment or just does me a thumbs down. And I'm like, yeah, man, fuck those people or F those people. At least tell me why you're unhappy with my video.
I think it's engagement for the algorithm. So like, even if they're thumbsing down, what is it? The most disliked video still became $1 trillion video or $1 billion video in profit or views because it was the most disliked video, the Baby by Justin Bieber. The only reason is because like 10,000 people hated it and they shared it 10,000 times. So like, haters gonna hate.
I say that to Jesse all the time.
Yeah, like
it's like you just gotta love it, man. It's for the algorithm, man.
Exactly. Everybody, hit the like, hit the subscribe. Dusten, we appreciate you having here. Hit the share for Dusten if you want people to see this.
Had a great time.
Yeah, us as well. We appreciate it, and we'll see you next time.
Life can be super happy, life can be super sad. I'm trying super hard to separate the good and bad. I go back to my future just to get to my past, but knowing me, my DeLorean will probably crash.